the day you saved my soul. You've been proving this is the
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 10 of the XFL Extra Point. 10 weeks. That's like a milestone of some kind, right?
10, baby!
Jesus. What's funny about that is when you did that, the music cut off on my computer. Like, it was like, oh fuck.
I'm gonna blow out this mic.
Alright, well anyway, episode 10 of the XFL Extra Point. So that's like a little over 2 months, right? That's a milestone of some kind, 10 weeks in. I'm Justin. I'm here with Thomas. Thomas, say something so people know you exist.
Tizzy Thomas.
For the first time ever, I actually know Thomas exists because he's right in front of me. We're actually doing this in the same room.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And, so today we got some news to talk about, and we're going to do, as we try to fill in time, because, you know, the XFL season is starting soon. The XFL season is starting soon, so Thomas is distracted with his dancing.
You can't get through the intro, bro.
So, the XFL season starting soon. You know, we're going to 2 shows a week. Once the XFL season starts, we're going to do a Monday show. That's going to be a recap of all the shit we saw over the weekend. Friday's going to be a preview of all the shit that's coming up over the next weekend. And so we'll be talking about the games. So, in preparation for that, we're running out of things to talk about.
That's correct.
But once that happens, we're going to be good. We're going to be going hard twice a week.
Going big hard.
So, but we do have training camps coming up. A little update, right? So I told you guys last show, I believe, that we wanted to go out and do training camp stuff and record it. Well, I'm still not 100% sure if they let people go to those.
Well.
Because they started today.
Well.
And
probably not then.
I didn't see, when I saw the little clips from them recording them themselves, I didn't see any people on the sideline who looked like fans. But maybe down the line, like, I don't think mini camps were open initially.
Maybe we should just drive up.
And just, like, be like, yo. Let us in.
Let us in. Come on. We should get polos and make like a little
like
logo.
a little thing where like we're official media.
We're credentialed.
So we hopefully will be recording some mini camp or training camp stuff. We can get it, but we also want to be doing YouTube stuff sometime soon. We have some ideas, and we're doing it this month. At least we're gonna at least do a trial run of it at some point this month. Not gonna go into 100% what that's gonna be yet. But, it's going to be short-form stuff, 10, 15 minutes, that kind of stuff. But, anyway, if you guys want to see that video content, head to our YouTube channel, XFL Extra Point on YouTube. Just type it on the search bar, you'll find it. You can also follow us on Twitter, at XFL Extra Point. If you guys want to ask viewer questions, which we haven't gotten any of them. We've been doing this for 10 episodes. None of y'all want to send us anything.
The fuck?
You can DM us on Twitter, or you can send an email to us. extrapointcontact@gmail.com. We'll answer shit you send there on the show, and we'll say your name.
We're just going to say open season, ask us about anything.
Yeah.
Because we are desperate.
We're desperate
for content.
For stuff to talk about.
We are a slut for content at this point.
But today's episode, right, news and notes as usual, and then we're going to be talking about our XFL one and dones. I have a theory that perhaps some people who are XFL fans, because some of them are very diehard, right? I have a theory that some people who are XFL fans are going to listen to this show and be offended by it.
I think so too.
Because lots of people don't want to admit, and we're XFL fans. We're not diehard per se. We cover it. Mm-hmm. We like it, but we don't know every single player and every coach's name and shit. Mm-hmm. But some people who are diehards don't like the idea that the XFL is the minor league.
Well, it is.
It is. And so I would say most, not all, but most of the players in the XFL would like to get back to the NFL. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to be talking about 5 players each who we think could be gone after the 2020 season and find their way onto an NFL roster. And I don't know if you did this, but I tried to make it a point that this wasn't just getting on a practice squad. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like most of the players in the XFL can get on a practice squad. And most of them have been on practice squads.
Okay.
For the most part, right? So just to say, well, they're making it to an NFL team on a practice squad isn't the same as making a 53-man roster. Some players in the XFL have made 53-man rosters. So I just think it'd be interesting and more narrow if we were like, these are players who are going to be the best. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like what I was looking for was like age, skill set, how it would translate, potential, and of course like current level, how good they are. But I think you got to be a very specific guy to get a 53-man roster spot if you're in the XFL.
You have to fill a role.
You do. And so we're going to talk about 5 people each that we think could get that immediate role. Maybe they're backups, but they're on the 53-man roster. They go into the season on the 53-man roster. So anyway, did I forget anything?
I think we covered it all, big homie.
I think we have it. So we're going to do the news and notes drop.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right, first story. Big story that came out.
Big.
I think Friday?
Huge.
I think it might have been Friday that this news came out. It might have been yesterday, Saturday. I don't know. It was pretty recently. So it's been announced, at least in some capacity, that Dean Blandino is going to be the XFL's head of officiating. So this came out because of a notice from the Tuesday press conference that they're doing, that they're releasing the rules. We're not going to go into that too much, but there's not much to talk about. We've talked about the rules in a previous episode. If you guys want to go back and listen to that, we talked about some of the rules that have already been confirmed and some of the potential rules. But they're going to announce it all on Tuesday, and Dean Blandino is going to be there, and this notice confirmed that he'd be the head of officiating. He's a former NFL senior VP of officiating. Lots of you guys probably know Dean Blandino. If
Whether
you
like him or dislike him.
Yeah, some people really don't like him.
If you're a Cowboys fan, you hate him.
But, he did serve. He's definitely a huge name for the XFL in terms of officiating. Somewhat surprising that he'd want to go be an official for the XFL, right? Like, he could probably get another job with the NFL if he wanted. But, I mean, he's head guy, and it's probably not all that taxing on him. What it will be taxing, though, I think, is the fact that these are all new rules for the most part. Like, there's a lot of weird shit that people don't understand quite yet. So he's going to have to explain that, and he's probably the best guy you could get to explain that. So Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, you could also like him or dislike him.
I don't like Mike Florio.
A lot of people don't like him. I'd say most XFL fans don't like him because he's widely considered to be anti-XFL, but he kind of broke the story, and when you watch, I don't know if he broke the story per se because it was a notice, right? But he got it more into the mainstream view. If you see many of these articles talking about Dean Blandino, they're saying, they're quoting Mike Florio's little piece on it, which isn't very much. But in that piece, he said, hiring Blandino, who has the ability to explain rules and the application thereof in a clear, credible, and accurate way, is arguably the best move the XFL has made.
Correct.
So, I don't know, arguably. Arguably is a key word there, because I don't know. I mean, that's a good move. Mm-hmm. Not the best move.
Not the best. I mean, I don't know what the best move would be, but
that's a good. But it's definitely
a step in the right direction.
Definitely a step in the right direction in like making your league seem more legit, right? Because Dean Blandino is a guy lots of people know from Fox and just being the head of officiating. But lots of people now, maybe you didn't know Dean Blandino if you weren't that into football. Lots of people know him now when they're watching the game. They're like, "Hey, Dean, like, what do you think this is a catch?" He's like, I don't think this is a catch. And I'm like, I agree. I don't think this is a catch. Like I for the most part agree with Dean Blandino.
Des caught it though.
Yeah. So, but so Dean Blandino, he's like he's a big name. What are your opinions? You like him? You don't like him?
I think out of the guys that the TV networks have put out to be the face of we think this is the call, I think he has been the most likable. And likable, what I mean by that is he will be critical of the referees on the field. He will not try to cover for them, which is the quickest way to, I think, make most people dislike you, is to tell them that what they're seeing is wrong when it's clearly not that way. And I think most of the time he gets it right. Like I said, Des caught it, but that's a blip. I think most of the time he gets it right. I think he's the most likable. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think this is a good move.
I would say the NFL officiating, though having always been pretty bad, got significantly worse when he left.
I agree.
Like, recently, it's been really, really bad.
Yes.
And so, I don't know if there's a correlation between those, causation between those, but...
Possibly.
But, I think it's... Regardless, it's a big name, whether you like him or not, that's going to get mainstream exposure. Lots of questions as to what his role would be in broadcast, because I doubt, right, he was never named as a guy who's part of the broadcast team. So, I wonder if he's going to be involved in the broadcast, or if it's going to be, after the fact, when they're like, what the fuck happened here? I don't understand the rules. So you're going to be like, well, the rule is that you can pass the ball forward anytime you're behind the line of scrimmage. So I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's our story. Dean Blandino, big-ass name coming to the XFL.
Big-ass name.
Good thing for the XFL, I think.
Yes, very good.
Now, maybe perhaps a bad thing for our second story, right? Depending on who you're asking. So, the Battlehawks OC, Doug Meacham, could be leaving the Battlehawks. So, training camp, just a few days away. Kind of terrible timing. But a report from Football Scoop is now saying St. Louis Battlehawks offensive coordinator Doug Meacham is leaving the team. It says that he's leaving for a job with TCU. He was the co-offensive coordinator and inside wide receivers coach from 2014 to 2016 for TCU. But recently that position opened up for a co-offensive coordinator and running back, a co-offensive coordinator position that he'll probably be filling in. Maybe he'll be full-time OC, but I doubt it. Probably another co-offensive coordinator position. So that leaves Jonathan Hayes, the Battlehawks coach, only a few days to fill the role if this comes to fruition, which I don't think it's been truly confirmed yet.
It's just a rumor.
It's a report, and I guess it's a rumor, but this report talks about it as if it's fact. So we'll see. But that definitely is a problem for the Battlehawks because is Jonathan Hayes, is he an offensive guy or a defensive guy? That's a question.
That is a question that I will quickly figure out myself.
Young Jamie, can you pull up?
Young Jamie, yeah. I'm not Young Jamie, bitch. Jonathan, I'll fucking kill you. I'm insulted that you think I am Young Jamie. You're not Young Jamie either, but you're the Eddie Bravo in this situation.
I'm not Eddie Bravo. You're definitely the Eddie Bravo.
How am I the Eddie Bravo?
You're the one with the terrible takes.
I have the best takes. All right.
You guys haven't been exposed to his awful takes yet.
I have the best sports takes of all time.
Once the season starts, everyone is going to turn against you, Thomas.
Everyone else is wrong. I'm correct.
You know what I can say about us being in the same room together? We're filling in this time while you're doing research a lot better.
That is true. It does help because you can kind of read where I'm at. And it's not just like, oh, wait,
Are you saying something, Thomas?
All right. Well, so really all I can find is that he was the tight ends coach for the Bengals.
So that would make him an offensive guy.
Offensive guy, I suppose. So while it's not ideal that your OC is leaving this close to the season, I believe that
they'd be running whatever scheme Jonathan Hayes was
like
run.
they'll figure it out.
So they're gonna have to find a new guy, but I assume Jonathan Hayes was gonna be calling plays.
They'll probably just at the very worst they'll just promote from within. So.
Probably. Okay, so that's our other story. I mean, what I guess. What else could we say besides, like, that's probably not the best thing, but it could be worse?
It could be worse, and it's not confirmed.
It's not confirmed. We got to wait and see. But anyway, Doug Meacham is not a name that I immediately know, right? So I can't say how detrimental this is. It is terrible timing, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'd assume it's not going to be the end of the world, and we'll see if it comes to fruition. But that's our news for this week. There wasn't a ton. I assume there's going to be a lot of news coming in the following weeks when training camp starts. I think we're going to get a lot of more transactions happening, I would assume. There also is reportedly a draft at some point.
Another draft? Okay.
Because the rosters aren't 53 men right now.
That's true.
If that's their size. I think they're something like 50 right now. They're close to 50. I'd assume there's another draft. I think that was a thing. It was supposed to be January 2nd. Originally was the rumor, and it's now January 5th. So maybe it's not happening, but we will wait and see. I'd expect transactions happening in the coming month.
Yes.
And that'll be stuff for us to talk about.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, we're going to move on to our big chunk of the show, what today's show is really about, and that's our XFL one and dones. I want to do a little more talking about this before we go into it, explaining the concept behind this. I personally think there's 3 groups in the XFL of players, and this is obviously very limiting and not the case for every player, and every player doesn't fall into every or separate categories. There may be overlap, but I think there's 3 types of players in the XFL right now. There's young guys, 20, 22 to 25, that are using the XFL as a stepping stone to get their start. There's guys who are more middle-aged, late 20s, who are doing this because they're, maybe fell out of favor in the league for whatever reason, never could really do it. And those might be the guys who are going to stick around the XFL for a little bit longer. but still have aspirations of getting to the NFL back in, and hopefully they would be only there for a little bit, but then they get back to the NFL. And then I think there's a couple guys who are that over 30 range or very 29, older guys who probably don't think they're getting back to the NFL at this point. They're probably too old to, if they haven't proved it yet. And those will be more of your long-term players in the XFL. Guys I can think of like that, like who's older in the XFL?
Sterling Moore, that corner.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Battlehawks defense, actually.
Yeah.
Will Clark, for one, too.
I know I had pulled some of those guys out as my sons.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something like people who are going to be around for Will Hill.
Will Hill, yeah, that's another great example, actually.
So I think there's 3 categories, and so I think what we're really focusing on today is that first category I talked about, those 22 to 25, 26-year-olds who are trying to make a name for themselves here, show, hey, I'm good, and when I get significant amount of snaps,
I can get it.
And you've only seen me in a practice situation, not a game situation, so that's the kind of people we're talking about here. But anyway, I think last time we did a show, you went first.
Yes.
So I'm going to go first now.
Go for it, big dog.
So my first guy is a guy we've talked about before. This is one of our favorite guys, and a show favorite for sure.
Yes.
Our boy, Jazz Ferguson.
Let's do it.
Wide receiver for the Dallas Renegades.
Yes.
So we talked a lot about him in our supplemental draft favorites episode. He was just unanimously favorited. He was your first guy, and he was my first guy, and you stole him from me.
I did.
Infamously. Yet still, I won the poll.
The poll was
on
rigged.
Who did a better draft.
The poll was rigged. You, Terrence Williams. Whatever. Your poll was the common man took your team, not the expert.
Didn't you vote for yourself, Tom?
Yes, I did. Of course I did. Because I had the better team.
So, obviously, he was a favorite for a good reason. Like, he's a gigantic dude, 6'5", almost 230, and he has a great skill set that matches with that size.
Yes.
We kind of pose this comparison as him as like a Mike Evans type player, which could be very useful in the NFL and the XFL.
Yes.
But so that and he's 22, young dude,
Big young.
Like that's almost as young as you could be going in.
Yes.
So very young dude. Only didn't have much of a shot in the NFL at first. Like he didn't get much. He was on a practice squad at the Seahawks. And that was it. He hasn't had a ton of experience in the NFL.
Except the Seahawks would like him back now. But.
Yeah, they probably would. So, we talked about, with his size comes his ability to know how to use that size. He can body these small corners, and he's fast enough, even though being 230. His 40 time at the combine, or was it his pro day? His 40 time, regardless, was a 4.45. He showed up, from what I read, he showed up to Seahawks practice a little bit closer to 250, and was not nearly as fast as he was at the combine and pro day. And that might have affected him somewhat in terms of them wanting to keep him, as he seemed a little out of shape compared to what they saw when they originally wanted to sign him. But he seems to have gotten lighter now. He seems to be putting in the work. He's fast enough to run by linebackers, and he's big enough to body corners. I personally believe Jazz Ferguson has the potential to be one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the XFL. If they know that if they can utilize what he can do, he can be racking up touchdowns and big plays. For me, he just feels like, just in terms of potential, like a no-brainer to make it, at least as a developmental guy. Like, I feel like I know people who are on 53-man rosters. Like, I would like him more than... Who was the guy who almost caught the pass today in the Vikings game?
I don't know.
Andrew Hollins?
Yeah, Alexander Hollins or something.
Something like that. Hollins.
Yeah.
Guy I never heard of. Why wasn't that Jazz Ferguson? Jazz Ferguson would have came down with that ball.
Maybe not.
But, you know what? I didn't even mention it.
Skull!
So, yeah, Vikings upset the Saints today. But this is an XFL podcast.
That's right.
But anyway, where was I? He seems like he's a no-brainer to make a 53-man roster just because of his potential and his size. Very likely he could just be 1 year. He did spend time in the NFL, as I said, off-season with training camp with the Seahawks. But he got put onto the practice squad because he had some issues with drops, is what I read, as he was dropping a lot of passes. Though, in the preseason, he went 7 of 12 for 119 yards. Caught 7 of 12 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown in the preseason. That doesn't seem like a drop problem really to me. 7 of 12, it seems like a pretty good, number of catches to targets. But perhaps in practice it was worse. I just think if Jazz can use the 2020 season as like a showcase of like hey, I'm comparable to Mike Evans. Maybe I'm not as good, but like in terms of size and skill set, I am a Mike Evans type player. I could see him getting in like in the rotation,
especially on a team like, say, the Redskins, who don't necessarily have a clear-cut situation at wide receiver besides like one player.
Yeah.
So teams that are hurting for wide receiver, I think we'll definitely look for him.
I think he's a guy who could find his way onto a 53-man roster if he can, as long as he doesn't show the problems that got him put on the practice squad with the Seahawks, which apparently was drops and lack of speed. Then he should be a no-brainer, a lock to get on 53-man roster after this 2020 season.
I agree.
And that's my guy, so I think that was pretty good.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
I think my explanation was great.
Your explanation was fantastic.
All right, who's your guy?
So my first guy, someone who I don't believe that we have mentioned on the show before, is DeAndre Goolsby. He is a tight end for the Tampa Bay Vipers.
Right.
He played at the University of Florida. So Goolsby here, he is 6'5", 240, only 23 years old. Biggest thing that popped out to me when watching his film was he's a hand catcher. If it's away from his frame, if it's a hard reach, he usually comes down with them more often than not. He is your big wide receiver built tight end. And while he's not that in the sense of like an Evan Ingram, but he's more of a mismatch maker. Like he can get open and catch the ball against corners and make that a mismatch to get your 6-yard completions, your 5-yard completions, maybe your 12-yard completions. He's not going to be a field stretcher as a tight end. He's not going to be that David Njoku. He's not going to be that Evan Ingram type. But he can be your, I don't want to say Jason Witten, but something like that.
Right.
Where it's a completion and it's a positive play. He's a zone coverage breaker. If a corner is somehow on him, he's a man coverage breaker, but he's not really going to be your home run hitter. He is a decent blocker. He's not a decent blocker in the fact that he knows how to block. He's more of just technique's not there. He's more of an effort guy. He'll get to where he needs to be and he'll use what he has. But if he's going up against like a true edge rusher or maybe even like a more of a rush type linebacker, he's probably not going to win. He might slow them down, but he's not. You shouldn't trust him to block if a player needs to be blocked. If he's an extra guy on a play that might help or chip, great.
The only thing I'd say about this guy, just from the little bit that I saw, is it seems like a type of tight end like him is falling out of favor a little bit.
Yes.
In the NFL.
Yes.
We're going more towards stretch tight ends, guys who can get yards after the catch.
Now, while that's correct, his testing numbers are comparable to not Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's a fucking freak, or David Njoku, but they're comparable to a lower tier of that. So he did have a not very good pro day. His jumping numbers were really not very good at all, that's bad. You have to be explosive to play in the NFL. But he ran a 4.7, which is not sexy. It's not a sexy number, but it's fine. And with the tight end position being kind of, I'm going to say less good, but really this era is not a very good year for tight ends, mainly just because of how they're used. And like you said, the type of tight end where it's, a bigger dude that's mostly there to block, but will get you the 5-yard completions, 6-yard completions is falling out. And you're going for more of the Evan Ingrams and David Njokus and people like that. So, as I said, this is someone who's going to make an NFL roster. Why is that? Because the tight end position is so raw at this point. He's still very young. Like I said, testing numbers are decent. He's only 23 years old. Some weird thing with him was his senior season, he was out with an undisclosed injury, and it kind of seemed like it wasn't actually an injury.
Okay.
The coaches wouldn't give any details, but it was like, well, there was a thing where...
What's the rumor?
The room. Well, okay. So what happened was he was declared out on Twitter for like the rest of the year, and on Twitter he was like, well, this is news to me. So that's not good.
Yeah.
So usually what that means, if someone's an undisclosed injury, they're suspended for some reason. Whether that's a failed drug test by the university or if it's just they're not responding to coaching well, something like that. So that's not very good, but that's a red flag in his past. I think his tape is something that will put him on film. I think also he is on the same team as Nick Truesdell.
Right.
If you look at the other tight ends on their roster besides him and Nick Truesdell, I think if they run two tight ends, I think he'll be the second tight end in that formation. So I think that will help him get a little more exposure if he sticks around. And I think if you have to cover two tight ends, I think they're covering the better athlete and the better football player in Nick Truesdell, and we'll leave him open and leave a zone for him to get to.
With that in mind, because Nick Truesdell isn't a blocker, I think we're going to see a lot of this guy blocking. So this is going to be a true test. If he can block, because that's what you're going to need out of a guy like that.
That's correct.
Because he's not necessarily your wide receiver type of tight end traditionally. So he's going to have to show that he can block pretty well.
Yes.
And if he can do that, I can see what you're talking about. He has size. He has hands. So,
and in college, he never outright got dick down.
Yeah, when I saw it, it was just not like the prettiest blocks.
Yes, he got in the way. And
he seemed okay in the run blocking
yes.
situation, pulling and stuff like that. But so that's an interesting guy. I think there's only a few bad things going for him. The fact that he's going to be number 2 tight end.
Yes.
You know, he's not going to be their number 1 guy, and he's not traditionally what the NFL wants. But for the most part, I could see a lot of potential. And do you know how old he is?
He's 23.
Well, that's a young guy. So
now, I would have put Nick Truesdell on here.
Right.
But Nick Truesdell is old.
He's 29. So that's okay, fair. Anything else to say about that guy?
No.
All right. So let's move on to my number 2 guy.
Alrighty.
And when I say number 2 guy, I mean number two guys.
Number 2.
Because I got a little bit of a joint entry here.
Yes.
Because I feel like they're in a very similar situation.
That is correct.
So I feel like it would be kind of dumb to separate them.
True.
And I should just talk about them at the same time. And why I'm talking so long and explaining without saying the names, I'm talking about 2 should be starting quarterbacks in the XFL. That's Philip Walker and Jordan Ta'amu.
My son.
And my son as well.
Jordan Ta'amu?
No, Philip.
Oh, Philip Walker. I was like, who?
No, I'm not stealing your son.
Don't steal my son. It's my son.
So Houston Roughnecks, St. Louis Battlehawks. You guys probably know all that already. So I lump these guys together because, their cases for being one and dones are very similar. Both are young quarterbacks who have a ton of potential, who just need some more playing time at a higher level and some time to develop. I do say in here, and I'm going to get ahead of myself, that I do personally think Ta'amu has a better chance than Walker, just because of age and a few other situations. But, all right, so let me talk about why Walker could be a one and done. So, in Walker's case, it's his ability to read coverage that's limiting him, and he possesses that high-level arm talent. He has a high-level mobility, and so in a league where it seems like mobile quarterbacks starting to become more of the thing. Lamar Jackson's trying to prove to us that mobile quarterbacks don't get hurt, right? Mobile quarterbacks coming more in favor, and Walker isn't a traditional scrambler like some people would say Lamar Jackson is, but he runs a lot, and he is a scrambler, but he sits in the pocket as well. So he's not completely a Lamar Jackson style. How I compared him was Tyrod Taylor was my comparison when we did our quarterback show.
That is correct.
But they actually reached out and tried to, when they blocked, the whole, the XFL blocked, quarterbacks from getting on teams thing. They had reached out to, the Steelers had reached out to try to get Philip Walker as their, Lamar Jackson scout, just because of his mobility, I assume, and a somewhat similar play style, I guess, even though I don't think there's anyone that plays like Lamar Jackson right now. But, it's not a great sign that there doesn't seem to be significant interest, like we saw with Landry Jones, where they were trying to bring him back in, or what's the other guy? Josh Johnson. What's his name? Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. Josh Johnson, where they were trying to. I almost wanted to say John Johnson.
Jonathan Johnson.
Josh Johnson, where they were trying to bring him in, to fill in a role for these injured quarterbacks. He didn't get any kind of interest like that. He got interest as a scout team quarterback, so that does worry me a little bit. But I think he has a good skill set. He has a ton of potential. He's only 24, and I think a year, if he can prove it, it's a prove-it year for him. If he can hold the starting job, because there's controversy there, if he can hold the starting job, I think with all the talent he has, with a bit of coaching and the schematic standpoint, coverages, reading coverages, he could be a viable second or third option make the 53-man roster in that way. Not as a starter, probably. But I could see him being a backup for a team that needs a mobile quarterback. You know, a backup because RG3 is getting older. Mm-hmm. A backup for the Ravens. A backup for the Bills. Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. A backup for any team that has a mobile quarterback. I could see him making a roster in that way. And so the other guy, Jordan Ta'amu, who I'm lumping in here in this dual entry, is similar, but they don't play the same, but they're in a similar situation. Ta'amu is slightly younger, 2 years younger, in fact. And interesting thing about Ta'amu is he is the only of the 8 original Tier 1 quarterbacks who has no regular season, experience. Mm-hmm. He is widely an unknown
because he's that good, baby.
He's widely because he only was in the preseason. He's like Jazz Ferguson, where they only did, that preseason and then they were gone. So he hasn't had the experience. No one knows what to expect really. He's just widely an unknown across the NFL landscape. So if I had to bet just in terms of which player would make the leap first between Walker and Ta'amu, I'd give it. Given both players are playing at a high level, both of them play really well. Let's just say in the situation, I'd probably say Ta'amu gets it just because he hasn't got a shot in preseason and to show, okay, I'm good. He has a higher potential to be a starter.
Yes.
Because we don't know. Right? We know what Walker is somewhat. He has a lot of potential still. But Ta'amu could go out on the field during this XFL season and just absolutely wreck the XFL and be the greatest player in XFL history, which wouldn't be hard because there's only one season. But, yes. But I've stated my issues with Ta'amu. I think he has, some problems with, I don't think his mobility and arm talent are on the same level as Walker. But I'm not going to say he doesn't have room to grow, and that maybe with me being able to watch him play in the XFL, my opinion won't be changed on that. I think he has a better grasp of reading defenses post-snap, and he has that more stereotypical size. He's 6'3", 220 compared to Walker's 5'11", 216. They're similar weights, but, it's the height.
Body types.
So I think they're in a similar situation. Young quarterbacks. We're going to use this as a prove-it year. I could see both of them not coming back, realistically. But I think Ta'amu has a better chance of making a 53-man roster, given they both play well. Now, if Ta'amu plays like shit and Walker plays well, that changes, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'd lump them two together. I just think it's Jordan Ta'amu and Philip Walker, young quarterbacks with a lot of development left. So that's my number 2 entry here.
Okay, I agree with all that. So my number 2 is one Ed Reynolds. He is a safety out of Stanford for the Houston Roughnecks. He is a little older than our parameters. 28, which is getting on the older size. However, he has played in the NFL already. He was a 5th-round pick of the Eagles, and he played a little bit for them, and he played a little bit for my Cleveland Browns.
Yes, he did. I see that here.
He was really, really good for us. He played pretty fantastic, honestly. He has really good film on tape already. So the reason that he kind of washed out of the NFL, I'm going to say washed out because I don't think it was really his fault. Right. Injuries were a problem. He got cut from the Browns because he could not stay healthy. Right. And you can't make the club in the tub. And he is saying. Yes, it's a great saying. It's not mine. It's just that's a classic phrase. But he is not a single high safety. He cannot be put on an island in coverage. He can't do it. Not reliably. So he is more of a run support or a shallow zone, like a cover 2 safety, where he is not the one that if there is safety help on a play, he is not helping you. Okay. He's not the deep safety. Right. He is the one that comes up and is not, I don't want to say an extra linebacker because it's not that, but he's covering the shallow zone. Gotcha. So he's the help in the shallow zone in a cover 2 defense. Right. Which is fine. If that's his role and a team has that role, great. A lot of teams do. So the fact that he already has good film on tape, he is a little older, but he has good film on tape. Teams know what he can do. If he can stay healthy this season and still prove that he can produce and be that cog in that type of defense, I think he'll get snapped up pretty quick.
Okay, here's my only question. Right?
Yes.
I see that he was in the AAF.
Yes.
But then after that, he was not in the NFL.
No.
So why?
So
Didn't he make
in the AAF, I think he literally joined the AAF
and then it closed down?
almost immediately after his signing. So I think, again, as we talked about with, the dude who played for the Saints that you really like, that has the Hawaiian name. A Hawaiian name. What a racist thing to say. The name that I cannot pronounce. Yes. The mentality in a lot of NFL teams is if you are hurt and you take time off, you're soft. Because they want players like Zach Ertz today who lacerated his fucking kidney and is playing, which is stupid. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's not it. I don't know. But if you get injured and take time off, usually it's hard to get back in once you've left.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
I have a similar type player on my list.
Yes.
And it's one of the ones I feel a little less confident about. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of similar. Is he my next guy? Let me see.
He's your guy.
No, he's not my next guy.
You can do him next if you want to.
Yeah, I'll talk about him now since it's similar.
Mm-hmm.
So my guy is Tristan Decoud.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's DB for the Dallas Renegades.
Mm-hmm.
Younger than your guy. He's 26.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he has a better chance in just that regard.
Mm-hmm.
6'2", 205. He played corner a little bit for the Texans. And then they were like, oh, man, you're kind of slow. And they're like, why don't you play safety? So then he got converted to safety in the NFL. Likely what he's going to be playing in the XFL as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if he ever goes back to the NFL, like what he'll be playing there too. So he doesn't have the high-level play speed, and he has technique issues.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not the greatest in coverage because of his footwork. And just generally, he's not fast. He doesn't have a ton of technique. He's not bursty. But what he does bring is solid tackling and good run-stopping abilities. He can actually read, from what I saw, he can read run plays. He can read. He can read run plays pretty well, and he can shed blocks pretty well. I think he's more of the, you said your guy wasn't necessarily this. Mm-hmm. I think he is more of a guy you bring up almost as a linebacker.
Okay.
And have him, just on running downs. If he gets to the NFL, it's not going to be in a capacity of a starting role. Mm-hmm. It will definitely be in here's a run situation. Mm-hmm. We need a tackle. Mm-hmm. So they'll bring him in, and he can disrupt running lanes. He can track runners in the open field well, and he's a very solid tackler, whether it's laying a big hit, which I've seen a few forced fumbles, or just sure tackling. He has very good tackling form, and from what I saw, he doesn't seem to miss a lot of tackles. He wraps up well. I think at the age of 26, he's a rare mix. Like your guy, you said, has a ton of NFL experience, right? Mm-hmm. But he's 29. Mm-hmm, this guy is 28. Mm-hmm. This guy's 26, but also has a lot of NFL experience. So he spent time with the Texans and the Cowboys, making that 53-man roster for both. He didn't see much playing time when he was on those rosters. I assume if he gets back to the NFL, probably not going to be seeing much playing time. But he is a guy you can rotate in on running downs. He did spend 2018, 2019 out of football. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
But I just think if he improves his footwork, if he can get a little bit better in coverage, maybe they can find a role for him as a replacement level player. As safety, make the 53-man roster as maybe like your third safety, your third strong safety, something like that. And that's why I'd put him up there. I think he's a lot like your guy, except younger.
Okay.
Okay. That would be my assumption. I actually don't know your guy all that much. You saw a little bit of Tristan Decoud. Do you think they're similar?
Yeah, I think they're similar in the fact that they're not necessarily cover safeties,
right.
Like you said. And if they are, it's more of a single cover, It's more of a shallow zone cover. Yeah, I agree. There's similar player types.
So I just think a guy like Tristan, because he's 26. Mm-hmm. How big was your guy?
He is 6'1", 205.
All right,
so they're similar.
Okay. All right. So who's your next guy?
So my next guy is Darron Smith.
Darron Smith.
Might be pronounced as Darren, but I'm gonna go Darron. Maybe Duran. I don't know. Out of Fresno State, plays for the Dallas Renegades. He's a safety. Mm-hmm. So this dude was a baller in the AAF. He's also, by the way, a little older than our parameters. He's 27.
Yes, he is.
But it's kind of the same deal where he has good NFL tape. Right. He also has fantastic AAF tape. He was really good. He was, wasn't he the defensive MVP or something?
Darron Smith.
For the San Antonio Commanders? Or if there wasn't an official award,
He was the best defender.
Yes, he was so good in the AAF. He was easily the best defensive back in that league. So how I know Darron Smith was he was brought to us.
He's also on the Browns.
Yes, you'll notice a trend here. He was signed off the Bengals practice squad when we were in our 0-16 season. It was fantastic. We had a lot of injuries that year, and Darron played very admirable with us. So looking at his film that he's put out, both in the NFL, a little bit of college, and the AAF, he can play single high safety. He can be your deep safety, and you can do a lot worse than him. He can be relied on to cover receivers. He can be relied on to supply safety help. He has great ball skills. If a ball is hanging in the air and it's between him and receiver that is his size and not much taller than him, like super taller, then he's probably going to get that ball. That being said, he does have problems with bigger receivers. Not necessarily the physicality. They're just not. They're taller,
right.
So they have a longer reach. So like receivers like AJ Green or DK Metcalf, those types of receivers, he'd have problems with. And like I said, it also does limit him in tackling. Also, he can't cover tight ends because he's so small.
Yeah,
and he's I say so small. He's not like
5'11".
He's 5'11". Yeah, he's 5'11", almost 200 pounds. He's not like pint size, but he's not an NFL safety size. That's what most coaches are looking for. However, the talent and what he's put on tape,
right,
I think will get him out of the league quickly.
I see here he was on the Minnesota Vikings roster.
So that means
then was cut.
Skull.
So I like this guy.
Yes.
I actually do somewhat remember him. I wasn't the biggest AAF guy. I watched the first few games, and I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of busy.
The games are on fucking Tuesday, so I don't care.
Yeah. So I didn't watch a ton of AAF, but I do actually remember when you said the name. I was like, I remember getting a Bleacher Report thing or something that was like, AAF star Darron Smith signs with Vikings.
Signs with Vikings.
But I see what you're saying. He seems to be pretty productive.
And he has good NFL tape. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm surprised he's in the XFL now. But perhaps, after this season, I can't, I'm calling you on your shit all day. But I can't really call you on your shit on this one. I can see this guy making it as probably not a starter.
But he'll be a plug-and-play depth guy.
Yeah.
And if they ever run a nickel or a dime where they need multiple DBs, he can fulfill that. I think a reason why he hasn't made it now is because why would you bring in a 27-year-old who you can't put on your practice squad because he's so old and he has experience in the NFL when you can just draft someone in the sixth round to do the same thing?
Yeah, that's true.
Not necessarily the same talent level, but fill the same role, and maybe they're going to even be better.
And if he shows up again, like you do it in the AAF, then you do it in the XFL.
Yes.
It's going to be harder to deny that, though. So
Precisely.
I can see what you're saying. That's probably my favorite of your picks so far.
Ooh.
So, all right, moving on to, I skipped one guy to talk about Tristan Deku. But now we're going to talk about a guy I like a lot, D'Angelo Yancey, who's a name lots of people are familiar with in the XFL circles because he gets so much coverage on Twitter.
I thought you were going to say something else.
What was I going to say?
He gets so much pussy. I don't know why. That was where my brain was going. Sorry.
He gets a lot of coverage on Twitter. Lots of just out of mini camp alone. Even I think some of his own workouts and stuff. Like he seems to have great hands and great body control. So much of what I said about Jazz Ferguson, it applies here.
Yes,
D'Angelo Yancey, not as big, 6'2" instead of 6'5". Jazz Ferguson 6'5", Yancey 6'2". Similar weights, 220, 230. He's a little smaller, but what I will give him is I think he has better hands and he's faster. Even though the combine numbers wouldn't say that, I think play speed when you watch him.
Yep.
D'Angelo Yancey gets behind corners really easily. So when I said that Ferguson could be a top 2-3 receiver in the league, Yancey was another guy I was thinking of in that top 2-3.
Yes.
Right? So already in this XFL offseason, he's been highlighted as like a potential premier guy in the XFL. He's one of the best playmakers and the guy you have to watch. We just seen the body control, the hands. And there seems to already be a connection between Yancey and Matt McGloin. It seems like it's clear Yancey is the number one guy and probably their biggest playmaker on offense. I think it's safe to assume that their entire offense will be predicated on what Yancey and McGloin are able to do when they're on the field together. Mm-hmm. It's just that's going to be their entire offense. It's probably that passing game. I think like many XFL players, he already got his shot at making the 53-man rosters, and he kind of just got in a lot of practice squads. After being drafted, I think in the 5th round, something like that. But he just made a bunch of practice squads. I'm just not really sure when I watch tape, when I watch him play, when I look at his size, when I look at scouting reports, when I look at all that stuff, why this guy isn't on an NFL team. And this is how I felt about Jazz Ferguson. Is like I've seen 5'9" receivers who have okay hands and are decent route runners who are on 53-man rosters. And then it makes me question why these big guys who are also fast, not like they're big, slow guys, because I can see, Laquan Treadwell. I can see why those guys might not be on rosters. But a guy who has speed, size, and hands, and Yancey more so than Ferguson in terms of hands, why that's not a guy that, he just seems like the most stereotypical good wide receiver just in terms of build. You got a guy who can catch, you got a guy who's 6'2", he's not overly big, but 6'2" is a big guy, 220, and he has speed. I just don't see why that guy isn't on a roster. But I think if you have a strong showing in the XFL, if he is what I think he's going to be, probably the biggest playmaker in the XFL, it could be one of them, one of the best wide receivers. If he's making highlight plays, if he's putting up big numbers, he's so young, he's 25. If he just shows out in the XFL, it's to me like Jazz Ferguson, no brainer. This guy is going to be on a roster. So I think D'Angelo Yancey it's just a clear one and done for me.
Okay, so we talked about D'Angelo Yancey on our inaugural episode.
We did.
And I believe I said something where he is what the critics of DK Metcalf say DK Metcalf is, and I still stand by that. But that's also fine because if you can run a deep post with D'Angelo Yancey and you win the route, great. Yeah. Who the fuck cares if he can't turn? Right. Just don't run a route where he can turn.
He's like Zoolander. He can't turn left.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. Yes. So precisely like that. So, and the reason why he may not be on an NFL roster is because when you're setting up your wide receiver room, and really in any league, you have guys that are zone coverage busters, or man coverage busters, and dudes like this who I describe as the big fucker. So he'll be the big fucker in the room, and maybe they already have big fuckers. Or you can be like the Seahawks and just have 4 big fuckers and Tyler Lockett, and that's great. But that's why. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
I feel like there's enough questionable wide receiver rooms. Like the 49ers could use one. They're a team that's a really good team, right? But wide receiver isn't their strong suit.
And if you look at him analytically, which analytics is important, but stats don't tell the whole story. He did not catch half of his targets in any season at Purdue. And I know he got drafted and went to the Packers. I don't know how he did on the Packers. But
he made the practice squad.
He made the practice squad. Hey, baby, that's good. But production does mean something. So maybe that's what people are looking at. Maybe that's what they're taking into account, which if you're taking into account film from 4 years ago, you're probably not fantastic. But because players do develop. But who knows?
Right. I think as long as he shows out, as long as he's one of the top guys in the XFL, it's just a no-brainer situation for him. He's got everything you need. He's young. Not as young as Jazz Ferguson, if I'm right. Jazz Ferguson's, 22?
Correct.
And Yancey's 25, a little bit older than Jazz Ferguson. Similar type of players in my eyes. I think Yancey is more of a hands. He has better hands. He's a better catcher of the football than Ferguson. What Ferguson has on him is that size and, big-bodied type. Yancey doesn't play like a big-bodied receiver, really. Yancey's more, he likes to run by people.
Yep.
He can make contested catches, but they're not sunning small corners. It's he just can make contested catches with someone draped all over him. I think he will make a lot of fun plays, and when you have a ton of highlights circulating on Twitter, that bodes well for you in the NFL. People are going to be like, oh, I actually know who this guy is.
Yep.
Because I don't know how many NFL teams, I'm sure they have maybe someone watch the XFL tape.
They definitely do.
But you know,
I hope they do. If they don't, that's
if
bad.
you know, Kyle Shanahan's on Twitter and he sees D'Angelo Yancey fucking moss someone, he's like, oh.
We're gonna sign that guy. I don't know why I give everyone the Vince McMahon voice, but
Kyle Shanahan definitely
picture
doesn't
Kyle
talk
Shanahan salivating and Vince McMahon. We're gonna
Pushing
push.
for the
We're gonna push D'Angelo Yancey for SummerSlam. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Is this? No, you've got two more guys.
Yes,
right?
I have two more
Who's
dudes.
your next dude?
So my next dude is, let me scroll, is Jalen Myrick, who is a cornerback by way of University of Minnesota Golden Gophers and plays for the DC Defenders. So this guy is, much like you with Will Hill, is a guy I would always pick in Madden to be like my sixth corner.
Okay.
Because his speed was always like a 90, high 90, because he ran a 4.28,
Yes,
which is
fast.
that is superhuman speed. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's 5'10", 200 pounds, 24 years old. So basically, if you're on a 4.2, you have doors open for you, no matter what. At Minnesota, he didn't necessarily have ball skills, but he was always in the right place at the right time. Had a lot of good pass breakups. His biggest thing is he needs coaching desperately. He was on the Jaguars for a little bit, and they were videos of him. So they had a joint practice with the Patriots, and Julian Edelman toasted him so bad, just in short yardage situations, because he doesn't know how to play certain routes, doesn't really know how to attack a double move, and doesn't really know how to press off the line. So important skills to have, but. And he's more of what I call an all-athlete, not really a ball player at this point, which means he is a mold for a DB coach to craft. Okay. So because he has every tool in the world to become a successful defensive back. He is 5'10", on the outside is a little sketchy and may not necessarily let him play on the outside. But if he can play slot, great. I think he can do that and be successful at that.
Here's my problem with that.
Yes.
You say he's not quick, doesn't have, you know, he got roasted by Julian Edelman. Is slot where you want him, where you're running a lot
So when I say roasted by Julian Edelman, it's more because Julian Edelman is one of the best route runners in the league right now, and I think his feet are crazy.
Right.
So he basically just was like, I don't know what the fuck to do about all this. Now,
wouldn't a skill set like that, though,
yes,
where you can run very fast in a straight line,
yes,
suit you better on the outside, even though
correct.
You're shorter?
Yes, let me tie this all back. So, you are correct. However, looking at his college film, it would seem that he, even though, like you said with, who was your other guy? I'm sorry. With Tristan Decoud, he's not necessarily quick. I think in pads and on the field, he can figure it out. And he knows where to get to where he needs to go to in a certain way. At least I saw that when doing at the Minnesota film. And like I said, desperately needs coaching. I think this is a dude who, if he has the right DB coach and the right defense, I think will be very good. I think can be a boundary corner, but will probably be relegated to the slot just because of his size.
Right. Well, we'll see. Just in terms of coaching, it does scare me a little bit, just because that's such a to go. If you're going to have him move to slot, because I see your concern with him being 5'10",
yes,
and playing him on the outside.
Yes,
I'm trying to. I've been trying to think of a corner who plays on the outside who's 5'10" and short, and I can't think of one.
There's really not any.
So, for some reason, I thought Patrick Peterson was shorter than he was, and he's not.
Now, I will also say he does have longer arms, even though he is 5'10", than some cornerbacks in the NFL that are like 6'1", so that does help.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and also, I hate height arguments because even though most of them are legitimate, but like if you're going to discredit someone if they're 5'10", you're like, well, I like my corner 6 feet, then that's stupid because that's 2 inches. You got to look at their exactly. You got to look at their reach. You have to look at everything else.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay. No, I mean I get it. I think someone with that skill set seems more useful on the outside, but if he can't, if that height becomes a concern and he's getting roasted by taller receivers on the outside, it's gonna fuck him up because to go from someone who's like you're like his coverage isn't fantastic to then tell him to be a slot, because I feel like slots have to be the best in coverage. Those are like your best coverage guys, because they have to be able to shift really quick. These intermediate curls and, you know, crossing the field, drags and stuff. I just, as long as, if he can overcome the 5'10" and not getting roasted by, you know, by D'Angelo Yancey,
D'Angelo Yancey
and Jazz Ferguson, then maybe he has a shot.
I think a lot of his quick area or short area quickness deficiencies also come with technique, because, like I said, Destiny's coaching. But I will say that Myrick is kind of my most, not iffy pick, but like he's someone who I saw and I was like, I like you, but I'm not sure. Fuck it, let's do it anyway.
You got Sun influence.
I got big Sun influence by Jalen Myrick, but I still believe that he can be a corner in the NFL.
I mean, the 4.28 is definitely interesting.
That's like, that's not human. Like,
Yeah,
think about that. Like, how fast? Like, my fastest 40 I ever ran was a 4.79, and I felt like I was flying. Could you imagine? Now 4.79 that's not a brag. Like, that's not a good time, but like,
I'm not even gonna say what my 40
well,
was.
it was different positions. Who cares? But just like a 4.28, like, that's crazy. Like, that is so insane. Like that, and that's laser timed. So that is precise. I'm sorry.
That's a very fast human
I'm
being.
at half mast right now because it's
thinking about how fast
it's human performance. It freaks me out. People
okay.
are aliens, but whatever.
You're a weird individual.
I am. Human performance gets me just hot and bothered.
Okay, well, I'll move on to my last guy.
Let's do it.
My boy.
My boy.
He's not really my boy, but he's good. Dorian Johnson. He's a guard.
Let's get towels.
I gotta throw my towel down. You probably heard that on the mouth. Dorian Johnson, a guard for the DC Defenders. He's a weird case to me because he seems to have all the talent, and you know, he could at least be a backup somewhere. And his career just got really derailed by injury. Even coming out of the draft, there was health concerns, right? So he was one of the top guards coming out of that draft. He was, I remember when I was looking this up, looking back on scouting reports, I saw some of them saying he might be the second best guard in the class. Some people even saying he was the first, but he was always in the top 5 at least. But
he was a premier athlete in that draft.
So he dropped all the way to the 4th round, and probably because of the health concerns. And it's just, I think, if that's what's fucking him up, then that's sad.
Yes.
As always.
Yes, it is.
And I'd like to see, I always feel for those people who got injured, got knocked out of the NFL, didn't get a shot again.
Where it's not their fault at all.
Yeah. XFL, part of the reason I love the XFL, right?
This is for those guys.
It gives those guys who either got injured and got fucked, who small school and got fucked, who aren't exactly measurables, or they just got in practice squads and never got a shot to show how they do in a game, right? And they can go to the XFL and they can get full playing time and potentially show, hey, if you give me full playing time, it's more than just watching me push a bag in practice, push a sled in practice. So hopefully with some game film, the talent that you saw in college, because he was fantastic in college, right, will show up in his game film. Give him some game film at a higher level than college. Show that to the NFL, and hopefully they give him a shot. I think so. What really sold me, this might be my favorite one, because this is on like a different level of thinking of why he might get back in the NFL.
All right.
It's not just because I think this guy's talented. I think the league is shifting to a different style of offense, and what I mean by that is we're seeing a lot of zone running coming into the NFL.
I got you.
Think of all the top teams, not all of them. Think of a lot of the top teams, most of the NFC, and what they run right now. Think about the 49ers, they run a zone run scheme. You think about the Vikings, they run a zone run scheme. You think about the Saints zone run, Seahawks zone run, Packers zone run, right? When the top teams are running a scheme, that zone run Denver Broncos scheme, other teams are going to be like, well, these guys are fucking good. I'm going to do that. It's a copycat league.
I'm going to do that.
It's a copycat league.
You're correct.
So when a team transitions from being not a zone run team, and they're like, all right, we're going to start doing zone run now, they're going to need guys to fill up these backup positions, potentially even starting positions, but at least backup positions that are good zone run blockers. Well, this is where Dorian Johnson comes in.
Ooh.
He's a good zone run blocker. He's athletic as shit.
As shit.
He is big, but not fat. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just perfect for that kind of scheme.
He's
they
a
ran a
large
lot
human
of
being.
zone at Pitt,
Mm-hmm.
so he has experience. Not to say that if he doesn't get picked up by a zone run team, because zone doesn't do like pulling guards, right? But if you had, he's also really good at pulling. So if if a zone run team doesn't pick him up, he's also good at doing things that aren't zone run.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good at run blocking. From what we saw in college, he wasn't a terrible pass blocker. He seemed pretty good, right?
Yes.
Now, the things I read online was maybe he's not great at pass blocking. That might have been part of the reason he's not in the NFL anymore. But I think maybe it's sometimes it's just the team you go on, the coaching you're getting.
It's just not the right fit.
It's not the right fit. And I think if he can get his pass blocking up a little bit, if he goes to a team, I don't know. I'm not sure the DC Defenders are running a zone run scheme.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's their coach.
Pep Hamilton.
Pep Hamilton. All right, does Pep Hamilton run his own run scheme?
I don't know, man.
Let's find this out. If they're running zone run stuff, then obviously that's going to be big ups.
Big ups.
Because if you could show that you're a good fucking zone run blocker, and it looks like the NFL is going towards all zone run blocking, then you're going to find a job just at least as a backup, because they're like, not everyone's good at zone blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is,
It's a skill.
you got a guy who can come in, and if one of your guys gets injured, boom, you got Dorian Johnson zone blocking for you.
Bam.
Like no one ever left. Now I tried to quickly look at Wikipedia and figure out
Look him up.
if Pep Hamilton did zone run, and Wikipedia didn't tell me.
So,
Let's just hope they mix some of it in there.
just sprinkle in some zone run,
Show off Dorian Johnson. But that's my guy, Dorian Johnson. I think he's young. He's 25. He's got good size, 6'5", almost 300 pounds. Fluctuates, of course, but he's around 300. And I just think with the way the league's going, it's some meta brain fucking shit thinking about.
Meta brain
It's more than just being good, because he's also good, but he fits exactly what the league seems to be going towards, or what I assume the league's going to go towards. When most of the good teams are running zone run, other team's going to run zone run. They're going to have to get rid of people.
1 + 1 = 2, baby.
Yep, 4.
Yeah, sure.
But all right, that's Dorian Johnson. I just think talented, and he's going to fit a lot of team schemes coming up next year.
All right.
And that's why he'll be one and done.
All right. So, my last guy, who I also think is going to be the hardest of my one and dones. I think he's. I don't want to say he's guaranteed, but I think that he's the most likely out of all of these guys to go one and done. Is Andrew Xtra. He is a edge rusher out of James Madison University. Excuse me, I tried to stifle a cough, but I failed. He is 6'3", 220-ish, and 23 years old. So this dude has tools on tools on tools on tools. He measured great at the small school FCS combine. His numbers were comparable to Harold Landry, who is really good for the Titans. Not really necessarily that as good as him. What are you doing? Okay. But they are comparable to that. He's very young. He's 23 years old. He is raw as crap. He is one of the rawest player, and not raw, like he's fucking raw, dude. Like he is underdeveloped. He needs coaching, but he has all the tools in the world. He was on the Redskins. I don't know if it was his preseason roster or practice squad, but he was one of the players to not jump from the AF. When the AF closed down, you look really smug right now. What's wrong with you?
This is your son.
What?
This was your son.
Yeah. Was he my son? Uh-huh. Oh, well. Yeah, my son.
I was like, why is that name familiar?
Sorry, he just looked really smug. I thought he was supposed to hit me. He was like, well, this guy fucking died, or something like that.
No, I was like, why is his name so familiar? And I was looking through everything, and he's your son.
Anyway, so he was on the Redskins preseason roster in some fashion. I don't know if it was just made it on the cuts or if he was on the practice squad for a little bit. In college, they kind of put him all over the field. He was a defensive end at some point, and he was also a linebacker. I think he has to play like a rush-type linebacker, like your Pernell McPhee or your Dwight Freeney. Not saying he's going to be that player. I'm saying that's just the type of player that he is. I don't think he's going to be too great in coverage, and he's not. His first step is not really there to where he can play defensive end, and he's not explosive enough to play defensive end from a stance. I think if he has a little bit of room to work with. I think he can get there, and I think he's bendy enough to where he can play an outside rusher coming from the linebacker position. So the fact that he is so raw and so young, and one of the most important positions and one of the most important functions of a good football team is getting to the quarterback.
Right.
I think he'll find a spot pretty quick if he does well in the XFL. If he does anything close to what he did for the Apollos, which if you look at the stat sheet may not be like, wow, oh my god, but if you look at the film, he did very, very well for the Orlando Apollos in his time in the AF. So I think he'll be one of the quickest ship jumpers after the conclusion of the first season of the XFL.
Yeah. Yes. He's young, man. 23.
He's big young, as I would say. Big young.
All right, so those are our guys. Let me just read them all.
Go through the list.
Let me just say them all. So I'm gonna read your players too.
That's fine.
I'm not gonna say anything.
I stealthily put them during the show onto the document.
So Jazz Ferguson, wide receiver, Dallas Renegades. Philip Walker and Jordan Tomu, quarterbacks, Houston Roughnecks, St. Louis Battlehawks. D'Angelo Yancey, wide receiver for the New York Guardians. Treston DeCoud, DB for the Dallas Renegades. Big Dick Dorian Johnson, guard, DC Defenders.
Yes.
DeAndre Goolsby.
First team name, or fuck it, first team, all name, whatever the fuck.
First team.
His name's cool. I'm trying to say.
Tampa Bay Vipers. Ed Reynolds, a safety for the Roughnecks. Darren Smith, a safety for the Renegades. Jalen Myrick, cornerback for DC. And Andrew Ankra.
I don't have it listed. He's on the, oh God.
He is on.
Oh God.
Oh, I have him right here.
I'm so stupid.
He was on the Battlehawks.
Because Wikipedia still says he's on the Redskins, which is erroneous.
So, edge for the Battlehawks, Andrew Ankra.
Anchor. Pass rush anchor.
Anchor. Okay.
Edge setter. Coming at you.
All right, that's our show. Right?
Yeah. How long are we at?
We're like an hour.
I always think it's like 30 minutes.
No, we're at an hour, dude.
It takes a long time to talk.
You want to hear exactly what we're at?
Dude, yes.
An hour and 7 minutes exactly.
See, that's an average show for us.
That is.
We're usually like around hour 15-ish.
Yeah. Like an hour 15, something there.
Well, look at us fluff it up to try to get there. That's crazy.
Well, let's go to a whole nother list.
Yes. Surprise.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening, guys. It's been fun. 10 episodes.
10.
10, that's a lot.
Not counting the extra point extras.
Yeah, which I wouldn't count as our episodes.
But not really. We really don't put any effort into them at all.
I edit them.
I didn't put any effort.
I didn't put any effort in, but I edit them.
I do the intros now because you can. So, whatever. But yes. I should say. How dare I say that? I put
Young Jamie.
Okay, you know what? I am young Jamie in this relationship.
All right, well, episode 10. Thanks for just sticking around. We're so close to the season starting.
Yeah, and we'll pick up once the season starts.
A little more than a month away, and it's gonna be fantastic once the season starts.
It's gonna be fabulous
because there's gonna be a lot more me and Thomas arguing. It's not something you've got to really experience yet.
Oh, it gets bad.
It gets bad. If you saw our group chat, it's like...
Our group chat is really just me and Justin because nobody else talks in there.
And all we talk about is the NFL.
Yes. Because
we know so much more about the NFL than we do the XFL.
Yes.
I was trying to think of a way to explain our show the other day, and I was like, the best way to explain it is just that we don't know shit about the XFL. We're like guys who are like, oh, we fucking love the NFL. And they're like, oh, fucking NFL, Vince McMahon, haha, let's watch this.
Let's watch this.
And then we're like trying to learn about it. So,
basically,
we're not experts by any means. We're trying to learn about it. I'd say we're like the average fan.
Yeah,
that's why I say we're not diehards. Like we don't know all these like D2, D3.
Yes.
James Madison University players. You know.
Andrew Ankra.
So it's like, you know, I appreciate anyone who's stuck with us because I'm sure at times you're like, you're fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's like you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You're dumb, and if we are, tell us. Because we want to know. I do think it's going to pick up a lot once we get to actually watch these people play in a game. It's going to be fun. Next week, we're going to think of something else to talk about. Yeah. If you have something for us to talk about,
please
let us know. Because like I said, we are sluts for content at this point. Wow. Unprofessional. Unbelievable. Really
you know who just messaged me?
Who messaged you?
XFL Down Under.
Really?
He said, how? What? Go Kirk.
Shout out to XFL Down Under. Follow him at XFL Down Under. Yeah.
Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at XFL Extra Point.
DM us stuff. Anything.
DM us stuff,
Tell
please.
us hello. We'll say hello back.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let me tell you guys to go down in Apple Podcast or whatever you guys listen to this shit on.
Yeah.
You go down. Your stars usually, or whatever rating system they got. Maybe it's a thumbs up. I don't know. Maybe it's a thumbs down. You just fucking click that shit. Any press is good press. So if you fucking hate the show, let us know.
Let us know. Leave a comment. Tell us how much we suck.
And we'd really
We'll even
appreciate
respond
that.
to you.
Yeah, we probably will, unless you hurt our feelings.
No, I'll definitely respond to you. So I'll be like, give me more. I need it.
So yeah, make sure you guys, everything, any support we've gotten so far, everyone who listens every week, everyone who has it on auto download on Apple Podcasts. You guys
Do people have it on auto download? Mm-hmm. Let's fucking go.
Because how I know is when I uploaded it, because I always upload these at like 1 or 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. We have like 5 downloads. Like 5 people are just constantly getting our feed.
Whoever you 5 or so people are, thank you. And I hope we're living up to your expectations.
I hope so too. Mm-hmm. I hope you guys enjoyed our first show in person.
I hope you guys had a great holiday.
Yeah, I hope you did too. It's the new year. First show of the new year. 2020 is XFL season, baby.
Unfortunate, because the number 20 looks terrible on XFL jerseys.
And it kind of does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Does anyone wear number 20 in the NFL? Mackenzie Alexander.
Ed Reed. We did this
Ed
last
Reed.
time.
We did do this last
We forgot.
time.
Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins. It's a really good number in the NFL.
Sure.
It just looks like shit on the jerseys.
I think it might have just been the model.
Maybe. Yeah. The Abercrombie Fitch model they have trying to flex. But yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Yes.
Thanks so
Show
much for listening.
over. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you next week.